For those of you who are waiting for the show to start, I apologize. We are having some small technical difficulties in our studio right now. We will be starting in just a minute. Hey, Abram.
Hey,
Hey, I can hear
you
you.
hear me?
Yes.
I
Uh,
think I was going to live stream, not Vimeo. I
oh,
guess I
the
was going the wrong link.
no worries. So for those of you who are watching live, we've figured out our problem. We will be starting in just a second. We're going to discuss our show momentarily, and then we will get started. Um, so we're going to start with um, the reason why I wasn't available last week with all the weird Black Friday defect issues. There's a lot of people who are watching who are looking for the most recent update on that. Um, we'll talk about augmented reality, Epic Games 1 year on the market, Bernie's bizarre pitch to put the government in charge of internet access, and Quibi having an actual content partner that looks like fun.
Huh.
And then what have we got
Cool.
for the Pilch Point?
Wow. It has been a fun week. We didn't do the build it, or we never talked about the build it or buy it, did we?
I don't think so.
Okay, great. So I did a story not long ago about the economics of whether you're better off uh, building or buying your own computer,
Okay.
which we could talk about. Um, I would love to talk about the that keyboard, the Decatext keyboard that I'm testing, but I got to figure out how to do a couple more things with it
Sure.
to be fair. So maybe we'll do that next time. I also have a competitor to the Decatext called the
Oh.
Tap Strap here, so that I haven't used yet. So I'm kind of doing a twofer and testing two different types of alternate input method. I guess you could call them alternate keyboard. Good for like walking around keyboard. So
All right.
hopefully we can talk about that next time.
All right. All right. Let me get you outputting and making the adjustment that I forgot to make last week, which was to record correctly. Hey, look at that. You're on the TVs. All right. All right. Yeah, that sounds good. So build it or buy it.
Yep.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Let's get started then. Oh, see, I almost made an even bigger mistake this week. Good evening from PLUGHITZ Studios. I'm Scott.
I'm Abram.
And we are here with episode 544 of F5 Live, Refreshing Technology for Sunday, December 8th, 2019. The show is a proud part of the Tech Podcasts Network. If it's tech, it's here. This week, the world's becoming more augmented Steam is getting more modern, and Quibi is looking towards the law. Wherever you are and however you're accessing our show, whether it be on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, on any of our live stream platforms, livestream.com, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, Mixer, Twitch, or Periscope, on any of the podcatchers, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or more, or of course on our website, PLUGHITZlive.com. Thank you for making us a part of your day. There are two ways that you can do that. The first is Sunday nights. At about 9 p.m. Eastern, you can go to f5live.tv/join us, and there you can chat with us in the studio and give us your feedback on the topics as we talk about them. This evening, YouTube seems to be the place to be. We've got quite a lively chat going on in there. Definitely give us your feedback on the topics as we talk about them, especially on the Pilch Point, which we'll get to in a little bit. If you can't join us live, that is okay. You can always go to PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe, and there you will see all of our shows and all the many, many ways that you can subscribe. And I think that's the spiel. Before we get to how our week was, or how your week was, Abram, I want to talk about how my last 10 days was, because it's been unique. And it's one of the reasons why we weren't on the air last week. Both Abram and I had a ridiculous last weekend with work, and that is why we had to cancel the show. I want to talk about my ridiculous weekend first. So, you got it for all of our regular viewers. You know that in December of last year, we were sent some products from Monster called the Monster Illuminescence mood lighting sets. We did unboxing videos, and we did some how-to videos over the last year. And on Thursday night, I got an email from YouTube letting me know that our viewership on a couple of the videos was up, and that we should probably check into why. And so I went and I looked, and our viewership on those videos was up 100% would be, so 3,000% over the past 4 hours. So I was curious as to why. It turned out that a lot of you were commenting about not being able to use the remote, or not being able to pair the remote. And since we had done a how-to on how to pair the remote, we looked into it, and a lot of you had said that you had purchased them on Black Friday. And so what I did was I went out and I bought one on Thursday night. I went out and purchased one. And I came back and I tested it, because obviously I have a lot of experience with the product. I tested it. You guys were not crazy. They were absolutely defective on a huge scale. Our calculation right now, based on the number of views and the number of comments versus the number of people, the number of units that were in each store and how many stores Walmart has, we figure right now it's at least 40% were defective. And that's just the people who have come to us and who have opened them once Christmas comes around. We figure it'll be higher. So, luckily, I have a relationship with Monster. So I reached out to several people inside the company. And over the last 10 days, I have been in contact with the chief operating officer of Monster. I have been in contact with the floor manager of the factory in China that produced them. I can't show you my unit right now, or even my box, because I had to send mine to China, to the factory, so they can look into what might be going on, so that we can come up with a resolution for our viewers who have been looking for one. So here's where we are with that, because I know a lot of people are looking for it. The issue has absolutely been narrowed down to this little bit on the receiver. There is a radio array in there, which is what makes the RF remote work. There seems to be something wrong with it. There is a conversation happening between the factory and the actual chip manufacturer. My unit should be arriving at the factory hopefully tomorrow. For them, that should be probably today. And so they will be able to cut it open. they will be able to take a look and figure out exactly what's going on. But here's the important part for everybody who's looking for a resolution on this: everybody involved wants to solve this. Partially because everybody's embarrassed, and partially because there was a lot of marketing behind this, and they want you guys to have a positive experience. And I apologize if you're watching me. I keep looking over to the corner when I'm talking about our viewers. That's because that's where you guys are right now, is off to the corner. Uh, they're absolutely working on a resolution. As of right now, what they're hoping is that there will be something that can be done remotely so that they can solve this for you easily. My guess is that won't be the case. I intend to be in contact once again today once they receive the package, and fingers crossed they will say, "Yep, there's a problem. We're gonna issue a recall on the receiver, and we will have this resolved shortly." But the thing that I have been assured from the COO, whose project Illuminescence is, by the way, that they do want to solve this. They don't want to force you to send it back or anything like that. They definitely want they want to resolve it for us. So that is where we are. As of right now, I don't have a firm commitment on what the resolution is, but the chief operating officer has said that they want to resolve it, and when the announcement comes, we will get it first. So we will bring it to you as soon as we have it. Fingers crossed, we will have it a resolution in the next couple of days. So definitely keep looking out for a video. That was my last 10 days, Avram. I know that a lot of your last 10 days was
Well,
Black Friday ish as well, but in a different way.
yeah, yeah. So, I mean, our company, like many, Black Friday, Cyber Monday is a big deal, and making sure that we have 24/7 coverage of all of the deals that people can get and where to get them and what the best ones are is very important. So, we work, uh, we have people on 24 hours, 7 days a week for a couple of weeks there. And so, um, through this past Tuesday, I had worked like 17 days in a row, at least 8 hours a day, usually 12 or more. So it was a fun time. But, you know, so but, we managed to, I'm sure, help a lot of people find cool stuff that they could get. So, that was my a couple of weeks there. Just sort of how it happens this time of year every year. But it's not not the it's important, but not necessarily a lot of fun, um, to be working those kind of hours. But
Yeah.
you know you gotta I did get to see some funny products with funny names, but we see those all the time. If you look on Amazon, my favorite sale product was the keyboard from the company whose name is spelled Dierya.
Uh-huh.
And so if you give a crap about someone, this would be the ultimate gift. But it's so it was a in, intense couple of weeks there.
Well, I will tell you that your work definitely helped me, because as many of our regular viewers know, I've been wanting to do a smart mirror project for a long time, and the thing that I needed at this point, because I finally found my one way glass, um, was a good monitor to put behind it, and the HP that you guys listed from Best Buy is the one that I ended up purchasing because it fit perfectly inside the framed mirror.
That's a tough.
Abram just went away for a second. Hopefully he'll come back in just a moment. Oh, hey, there he is. That's a tough. Can you hear me, Abram? I don't know. This has been one of those. Can you not hear me, Abram?
Huh. That's odd. I can't see or hear you though.
Oh.
Hmm.
Oh. Well, for those of you who are watching live, sometimes this happens. Oh, technology,
I'll
right?
reload.
It's you never know, and internet has been a real problem in the studio today. So hopefully, Abram will be able to hear me now.
Yeah, now.
Excellent.
Huh.
All right. So that's a real tough. Is where you left off.
Oh, I'm saying that's a real tough project. The mirror doing a smart mirror. What are you using to power it?
Um, the computer that used to be yours behind the TV here.
Ah,
For right now.
so like
Eventually,
a full PC.
for right now, I mean, it's one of those little stick PCs that was a wannabe version of the Intel compute stick that we got on Prime Day like 2 years ago. It's
hmm.
it's pretty decent for what we were doing with you, and it's way overpowered for what I'm doing with it now, which is fine. My
Yeah,
intention
I mean,
is to put it on a Raspberry Pi, running the Windows 10 build for it, and throw that back behind it because it's a UWP app.
Interesting. Because I know that there have been a number of smart mirror apps specifically written for the Raspberry Pi. It seems to be a very popular project.
Yeah, it is, and I didn't want to use one of those projects. I wanted to start from zero because that's me. That, and I want
No,
to be able to. I also want to be able to put our stats up, which was going to be a challenge trying to use somebody else's platform. I'd love to be able to start my day, look at the mirror, have it tell me what the website stats were for overnight and stuff like that. So, anyway,
that's cool.
Anyway, with that, how about we get down to some news? This week's Nifty Gifties on F5 Live is proudly powered by the Microsoft Store. It's the holiday season, and sales are upon us on everything from tablets to laptops to the Xbox One, either S or X. Right now, you can save up to $150 on an Xbox, starting at just $199 for a brand new Xbox One S all digital. But it's not just that. There's games, there's apps, there's also Samsung products, VR and AR headsets, and a whole lot more. If you're a current active student or you're active military, you save 10%, and you can find all of that by going to f5live.tv/Microsoft. So, speaking of AR, this week was a big one for AR, augmented reality, for those of you who may not be familiar, because Qualcomm, during their Snapdragon Summit, announced the newest member of their what they call cross reality hardware platform that involves 5G. So you can have a truly untethered augmented reality experience, which, when it comes to augmented reality, is important. The idea of being tethered. Can you imagine how Pokemon Go would have worked if you had to carry a laptop with you to make it work, or you had to have a Wi-Fi hotspot in your pocket or some kind of craziness like that? It just never would have worked. So the idea that an untethered experience is now easily possible through 5G is fantastic. But Here's the real exciting part. They announced a partnership with Niantic, the company responsible for Pokemon Go, the Wizards Unite game from Harry Potter, Ingress, basically everything that has made augmented reality exciting, except for Minecraft Earth, which comes from Microsoft. They have all come from Niantic, and they're making their own hardware, and they're making the Niantic augmented world platform available to developers, both on their hardware and on others. So, Niantic's making hardware using Qualcomm's new platform, meaning it'll have 5G, and sent it to Niantic, it will have at least two killer apps at launch. It will definitely have Pokemon Go and Harry Potter, which is one of the things that has made things like the HoloLens less, or God forbid, Magic Leap uh, problems. Is that there's been no real killer thing. We talked about it with VR. Here we are talking about it with AR. There's been no killer reason to have it. The idea of having a small, very small, if the Qualcomm reference hardware is any indication, really small hardware that plays Pokemon Go right in your head. I think that might sell the hardware. What do you think, Abram?
Yeah, yeah. I sure hope so. I mean, I mean, I think that's what we've been waiting for. It is now, of course, I'm sure there's going to be some, if this becomes popular or even a little popular. I think there could be somewhat of a backlash against it. There was,
Of course.
there was the backlash against people wearing Google Glass, and backlash.
With restaurants,
There was,
restaurants were passing, putting up rules that you couldn't wear the Google Glass in their stores.
yeah, like how many people had it anyway? It was super expensive and didn't do much.
Right.
But yeah, there was such a huge backlash against that, and I could see there being backlash against this.
Of course.
People walking around, all these people with their heads in it. Now I think it's great. Um, I'm not. I never really got it. I never got into Pokemon Go because despite what my son wants, I'm not super into Pokemon. But we went out, like my wife is. But we went out and played Minecraft Earth the other day, and I really enjoyed that. Even though
Yeah.
I'm not a big Minecraft player regularly, Minecraft Earth was really, I found it more fun than actual Minecraft, and that was really cool. Now it is a little bit socially awkward because we were walking around the neighborhood, and like, just like walking around staring at our phones, stopping in front of strange people's houses, like, oh yeah, I got this thing here. Now I guess, I don't know if they're just this smart or whatever, but like, they have in Minecraft Earth this concept of something called an adventure,
Uh huh.
right? So
Those
it's
are the
like,
beams of light, right?
yes. Oh, did I talk to you about this already? You tried it?
Oh, I've been playing it. I haven't
Oh,
done the
you went. Oh,
adventures yet,
okay.
though, because I never find them locally. So please tell me
Ah,
about the
okay.
adventures.
Okay. I know I'm taking it off the rail a little bit, but this is what you want on this piece of hardware, is
Right.
hopefully it will also work with Minecraft Earth.
Well,
Um,
considering Microsoft's
so
whole thing is about cross-platform availability on all
yeah.
their stuff, I would imagine so. You won't find it
So
on
unless,
Magic Leap, but that's a whole different.
where do you find a Magic Leap?
Exactly.
Nobody seems to have them.
Based on
So
the report that came out this week, they've sold 6,000 units total.
we ordered one for my job and it never arrived. So,
I
you
believe that.
know,
You also
so
had your weird demo that one time. Anyway, so let's talk on.
so so anyway, so when you get to the part in Minecraft Earth where you see the beams of light, if you go over there, what was kind of neat is I was a little worried that it was going to be like in front of some person's house, and they were gonna like call the police or something for me standing in front of their house doing the adventure. But I don't know if it's just that smart or just a happy coincidence. that the adventures were all like right in front of my son's elementary school. They were
Huh.
like one of them was like right behind the school, and one of them one and a couple of them were in front of the school, but
Interesting.
they were all like in parts of his schoolyard. So at least that's sort of like a public place, not somebody's house.
Right.
Um, and
Huh.
and on the outside of it, so you didn't have to like go into the like
Right.
schoolyard to do it. But anyway, so uh, when you get there, um, it lets you place a like an AR widget, like an AR like thing. So we went to one and it was like, okay, put this, like, tell us where you want to put this thing. And this thing was like a flat brown square. I was like, I don't know what this is about. You put the flat brown square down like on the ground,
Mm-hmm.
and then you go over to it and peer down, and it's like a pit with skeletons in it. And the skeletons are coming, and you have to like fight the skeletons with your
Okay.
sword by tapping on it.
Okay.
So I don't know what some of the other adventures were, but that was kind of cool. Though I kept getting killed. I kept getting killed by the skeletons because I guess I didn't have whatever I probably should have had to beat them. But
Fair enough.
that was kind of fun. I don't think they have anything cool like that in Pokemon Go.
You've got your gym battles. You've got PvP now. There's
Uh,
there's some stuff, but it's not. Obviously, it's not quite the same. It's definitely not quite as active as
yeah.
that.
So that was pretty cool. But mostly we were just going around like capturing stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and then well, I guess as you've seen, you can then use it to build things.
Right.
I was not quite as interested in the building things part, um, as just like I was going around like, oh look, there's a cow, you know.
You. This is why you and I get along, Abram, because that's exactly how I feel. I have. I haven't gotten into the building part of it at all, but the idea of going around and making making the duck make chicken noises, or is it the other way around? I can't
Yeah,
remember now. It makes the wrong noise. That amuses me to no
yeah,
end.
yeah. I don't know. I guess it's because like I was with my son and he was into it, and we're walking. We're like, oh wait, there's a cow over there. Let's see if we can get it.
Uh huh.
Uh, Honestly, I still don't totally get Minecraft, even though my son is so into it. I have to admit, embarrassingly enough, that it kind of makes me nauseous because the low res graphics and the fact that the camera's constantly zooming in. So you're like, whoa, this thing's just now in my face. No, it's
Mm-hmm.
not. Uh, Gives me motion sickness when I play actual Minecraft, which I don't have
Yeah.
that problem with the AR version.
Sure.
And and so but then like all they're doing is sort of building stuff, but it's sort of like eh, you got a zombie, you've got a pigman, you've got a cow, you got to make a sword that smacks apart in after you use it for 2 seconds. I don't know.
Uh, yeah.
but but obviously
I'm with
there's a
you.
huge community for it, and so I actually thought the game was pretty cool.
Yeah, I've
So
definitely enjoyed it, and imagine if it was a little even more immersive than what we're talking about on the phone, where it's literally you're looking around like normal and seeing these things and being able to interact with them. The my big AR experience is with the Hololens. It's the Space Invader type game that comes with it, where things start coming out of your walls and stuff like that. That it's a tremendous amount of fun, but it's like an 8-minute demo. The idea that you could literally just be walking around and plus it requires Wi-Fi. This you can walk around anywhere, interact with the stuff. It was kind of the promise of AR and with Qualcomm and then Niantic making their game platform available to outside developers. I mean that's fantastic because that's the hard work, right? Is building the the ability to throw external data into the real world. That's the hard part, and they're going to make that available to other developers. We might have some really killer stuff come out of this.
I mean, the coolest concept of AR that I've seen, but I've never had it working in front of me. Well, I've had like the single player version
Mm-hmm.
is I'm trying to remember what it's called, Lenovo's AR headset, where you do lightsaber duels,
Uh-huh. Yep, yep.
and it worked. I've tested it. It worked moderately okay playing an NPC, but supposedly if you have two headsets, you could actually like lightsaber duel your friend, and
Right.
that would I think that would be a great use of AR where you're actually doing
Sure.
something with another person.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that would be great. Anything that's PvP and AR would be. That was a whole lot of letters, not a whole lot of words. Any, anywhere where you're doing player versus player in augmented reality uh, has a lot of promise for a lot of fun. So yeah, the lightsaber duels were an obvious uh, an obvious place to go, and because it sounds like so much fun. So obviously, it'll take a little while before we see any of this stuff uh, come to life. Right now, with the fact that, like I said earlier, Magic Leap has sold maybe might have only sold 6,000 units total, and who knows, that might include yours, Avram. Uh, um, and
Yeah.
and that puts us with basically the Hololens being the only thing out in the wild right now. But when these things start to hit, we could see some really cool hardware. I'm super excited because I think everybody knows AR and I are friends. So super excited to see this stuff happen. This week's Pilch Point with Avram Pilch is proudly powered by PureVPN. When you're browsing online, you want to hide your browsing history, whether it be from your ISP or Google or Facebook or whoever it is. And the easiest way to do that is with a VPN service like PureVPN. Right now, they have a deal running 88% off. The way it works is if you purchase a 5-year plan, you will get it for $1.32 a month. There are plenty of other deals available right now as well, and you can find all of those deals by going to pilchpoint.live/purevpn. All right, Avram. The sales insanity has started to calm down a little bit. So, what have we got to talk about this week?
So this actually could feed into what you're buying this holiday season. The eternal question that could be asked at any time, but I've asked it recently. Uh, are you better off buying your next PC or building it from scratch? Now, for most people who visit Tom's Hardware, uh, which is my day job, they a lot of them want to build a PC for very good reasons, and but there are some who do want to buy it, and so I looked at the arguments on both sides, and what it actually would cost to build versus buy, um, at least as of last week. So obviously, if you're buying a laptop, let's just get this out of the way. You can't build a laptop, so there's no way you would build a PC. Um, but if you are looking for a desktop to do to be your main PC, your gaming PC, if you build it, obviously you get to have it your way. Every single component you pick, you get to decide the look of the chassis, the the lighting arrangement inside. You get to make sure that you have a name brand power supply and motherboard, um, and RAM. You get to um, and when you're done with it, you feel a sense of pride of ownership. Like, wow, I built this and it works great. Um, you also can save some money. Uh, it particular You can also save some money if you have existing parts that you're reusing. So we'll get to in a minute the cost differential between buying a PC and building a PC from scratch. But there's no comparison if you're already, say, reusing a whole bunch of the parts from a previous build. So if you have a power supply that's been good for you and 600 watts or something, and you've got a case. I mean, I used to have a chassis that went with me through like 4 builds. You know, I mean, case and power supply right there. That's probably at least $150 worth of value right there. And then if you're reusing your storage drives, it pretty soon a lot of the cost has already been defrayed. Now, there are lots of reasons why you'd want to buy a pre-built PC. For one, time is money. Um, you know, if even under the best, if the price difference between a pre-built PC and building it yourself, let's say it costs $200 more to get the pre-built PC, but you know it takes you 6 hours, 5 6 hours after all is said and done to build a PC. I don't know, if you make $40 an hour, that literally could be, you could have worked for that. Or your time is precious. So you know and you'll have lower blood pressure, because if you get something that's pre-built, it's guaranteed to work out of the box. uh, and if it doesn't, you send it back, and you get a warranty and support for everything, as opposed to, well, maybe you get a warranty on the SSD, but it's different from the warranty on the RAM and the motherboard. So if something's wrong, you may not immediately know which it is, which part is defective and which one you need to send back. So so it's definitely a lot easier and to buy a pre-built PC. But a lot of people feel like, hey, I like to have it my way, and you can save money, particularly if you are recycling parts. But what if you're not? So so in my article, which you can read on Tom's Hardware, I put together 2 different PC builds from scratch, uh, and I priced how much it would cost to build each PC versus buying as similar of a desktop as I could find. Granted, when you're out shopping for a pre-built PC, very often you're not going to find exactly the same thing that you configured, but close enough. So my sub $500 build featured a Core i3-9100F processor, an RX 570 graphics card, 8 gigs of RAM, and a 512 gigabyte Intel 660p SSD. That came up to, when I priced it 2 weeks ago, $478. The closest I could find online was a CyberPower gaming PC that was $600, had a Ryzen processor instead of a Core i3, and a 240 gig SSD with 1 terabyte hard drive instead of a 512 SSD, or an HP Pavilion desktop that had a Core i5 processor and a GTX 1650 card, uh, but but just just a 1 terabyte hard drive. And if you wanted it with an SSD, that took the price up from 549 to 709. So what you're talking about is somewhere between the price delta between what I built and what it would cost you to get something somewhat similar
Mm-hmm.
is at least $120. But probably, if you want the full SSD, at least the 512 SSD, probably more like $150 $200 price delta. Um, Similar story when I was building a I actually did 3 builds, building a sub $1,000 build with a Ryzen 5 3600 CPU and an RTX 2060 graphics card and a 1 terabyte SSD. Um, my build cost $986. Um, the best um, The best deal I found was something called a Skytech Legacy Mini, brand I never heard of, for 1079, which had a lesser CPU than mine, but otherwise similar specs. Uh, and and that was 1079, so about $100 more.
Okay.
So the price differential seems to be somewhere, depending on what you get, somewhere around um, $100, $100 to $200 between building and buying. Although the difference goes way up if you want to build with a large SSD, because as we said on a previous show, you really get gouged when you get a large SSD uh, on a pre-built system. You know, if you want a terabyte or 2 terabytes of storage, it comes fairly cheap when you buy it on your own, but not so when you get it in a system. So, so what are we talking about? Maybe $100 to $200 price differential. Now, let's also keep in mind that it's actually even less of a delta than that when you take into account that I didn't price a Windows license
Mm-hmm.
into this, because we know that, well, you can get a Windows key fairly cheaply, and some people already have one. And I didn't price a keyboard and mouse into this, because I think even if you buy a pre-built desktop, the keyboard and mouse that they give you are usually so crappy that you should buy one on your own anyway. But those things have value, and when you take it into account, the fact that the keyboard and mouse might be worth 30-40 bucks, that a Windows license, you know, might be worth. I mean, if you bought it wholesale, retail from Microsoft would be 120 bucks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the price differential between build it and buy it is very, very small. Um, so I think this really comes down to, a, do you have do you want to take do you really want to have it? How important is it to have it your way, to have the system look the way you want, to have it, you know, get all the things you want? Now, if you're doing things like overclocking, you're going to want to get better cooling than you'll probably get than most pre-built systems.
Mm-hmm.
But um, if you're not doing anything, if you're not doing like really heavy overclocking, the reason the reason to build is really because you want to have it look a certain way. You
Right.
want to make sure that these are parts that you really like, all of those things. And that's why I personally would build instead of buy. But I think if you look at the economics of it, it comes out to be kind of a wash.
And one of the reasons that we've talked about in the past uh, that might drive you to build versus buy is there are certain components in a pre-built that not only you don't have control over, but you don't know what they are, right? Like you don't necessarily know what hard drive is going to be in a system. You don't necessarily know
Yeah, right.
there's certain brands of things that that might be important to you, even if it's not a terabyte versus a terabyte of hard drive space. The difference between a no name and a big brand could be important, or
No,
but even between models.
this is true. This is true. I mean, another way to do this, which I think the premium's a little higher, so the delta's a little higher, is you can go to a site like CyberPower PC, and you can literally pick. I believe iBuyPower is like this too. You can literally pick like what SSD you want and what RAM you want and what motherboard you want.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they have a pull down menu with like hundreds of them. So in effect, they're just putting it together for you like you might for yourself. But in those cases, you're usually spending a fair premium because you're getting it made to order versus getting something that is off the shelf at Best Buy. And those things that are off the shelf, you definitely don't, you usually don't know what brand and model of SSD you're getting, for example. And that makes a difference in your performance. You,
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
there's a big difference between getting like a cheap SSD and getting one, one with a much more high quality controller and high quality, high quality flash and stuff like that. So, um, yes, if you, and that's why people who are really concerned about performance will probably either build it themselves or they will have it completely custom made, just to save themselves the effort. But for, I think, a lot of people, and I'm not just talking about people who aren't tech savvy, like, the classic example of, my mom.
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, my mom wouldn't use a desktop. She wouldn't need a GPU because she's not playing games. So, um, but I think for most people who are serious PC gamers know their components, at least a bit, and so they do have to shop around and find good stuff. But clearly, um, you know, building is still preferable if you have the time and you have the patience. But for a lot of people, it's just simply easier and not really significantly more money to just buy an off the shelf
Sure.
system. What would I do? I would build it. But I think it really depends on the person. But I think what was an eye opener for me is that it's actually not much more money to get it. You're not paying a significant premium to get it pre-built, but I guess what you are paying in, as you say, is it may not be the brand of SSD that you want, or the brand of RAM that you want, or the may not be the brand of power supply that you want, or the fans that you want. So that's the best argument for building.
True. And you said that you've got an article on this out there, right?
Yes. So if you go to tomshardware.com, you can check out my story on should you build or buy your next gaming PC, and please let me know what you think. I think what most people who have read have said is, you know, as someone who's reading this, I want to build it, but I know that there's somebody who should buy it. Uh, so that's that's the story.
Makes sense. Well, Abram, as always, uh, I I always love these stories from you because they're always so interesting because we've talked about it many times. You and I have kind of always built our computers, other than my Surfi, which for those people who are new viewers is the plural of Surface, as far as I'm concerned. As far as my outside of my Surfi, all of the computers that we use, whether it be here in the studio or the office or whatever, are all custom built, and that's probably a lot to do with I want to, and and some to do with the things that I want are odd because the things that I need like for the studio are odd. And so it just makes more sense to custom build. But yeah, with a price difference that close together, for most people, it's probably irrational to try and have one custom built, because if you're not doing it yourself, you're going to be paying that premium to somebody else to do it for you anyway. So it definitely makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. Now, listen, I'm trying to gather up the parts so my son, who's 7, and I can build him a desktop PC. And part of the reason is just to have that experience.
Mm-hmm.
So
Makes sense. Well, as always, Abram, thank you, and I look forward to what we talk about next. This week's Extra Life on F5 Live is proudly powered by Razer. All the accessories you need to up your game on both PC and on console are available from Razer. Whether you're looking for a new keyboard or a mouse to go with the PC that you just bought or are currently building, or you're looking for a whole system like a Razer Blade stealth laptop or something like that, you can find all of that with some really great deals running right now by going to f5live.tv/Razer. So it's been a year since Epic Games launched their Epic Games store. And when it happened, there was a lot of concern over what it might mean. We talked on the show about how, fragmented stores could eventually lead to, the problem that the Windows Live games created, where, if something goes wrong, the things that you purchased might disappear. But what we really worried about was what it might mean for Razer. Nope, for Steam. Sorry, my brain's still on the promo. For Steam, who has been complacent. They have definitely been the industry leader since they came about. They have owned the PC game store market for 15 years, and when you're complacent, you can be displaced, and you can be displaced easily. I'm sorry. To those of you who are asking about the Monster LED lights, we talked about those at the top of the show, but we'll be posting this later. Once the live is over, it'll be out. Anyway, so when you're complacent, you can be displaced. Just ask Microsoft and Windows Mobile, who used to be the largest operating system for smartphones and today doesn't exist. Or Palm for the same thing. So there was some fear there, but Steam seems to have responded to the challenge really well. For years, Valve has promised that there was a Steam update coming. There was going to be a refresh of the library. There was going to make dealing with lots and lots of games easier, because over 15 years, many of us have ended up with libraries that are ridiculous, and trying to find things and sort things really was not a pleasant experience. And they had been promising for years. It was coming, it's coming, it's coming. And it's here. Why is it here? Because of Epic. Because there was a challenger. They no longer felt complacent. And it might have gone further than that. It might have actually revitalized the company. It might be why they decided to do their own VR hardware. It might be why they decided to bring Half-Life back. Valve seems to have awakened from a slumber of a number of years, and I think it's at least in part thanks to Epic, which turned out to not be a terrible game store, which was the other fear, was that it was going to be terrible, and that was just going to lull Valve into a deeper sleep. So I like the Epic store. I think it works real well, and I like what Valve has done. I think this is turning out to be a good thing for the industry, Evan.
So how many games can you get in either store? Are there a lot of games that are cross store?
No. There's not a whole lot of cross. So Epic did something interesting. They set themselves apart first by offering an 88% revenue share, which is totally different from Steam, which is 70%, which is a huge difference. So for indie developers, that 18%, huge. So a lot of indie developers have gone Epic entirely, and Epic has been paying for exclusives. But it doesn't mean that you can't be in both stores. We talked, there was a story maybe 6 months ago, maybe not even that long ago, we talked about there was a game that had launched on Kickstarter, done really big. They had promised day one codes on Steam, but then they signed an exclusivity deal with Epic, and so those codes weren't going to be coming for Steam, and people could get their money back. So Epic has definitely been buying exclusives because it's a smart thing to do if you're going to try and get the game market started, but those exclusives run out. So even the things that are exclusive, I think the one that we talked about had either a 6-month or a 12-month window on the exclusivity, and then they said we will definitely be in Steam on that first day we're allowed to be. So there's definitely games that are cross, but there's a lot of stuff that's coming that's launching exclusive to Epic because there's money in it. You know, if you can save that 18% commission, that's huge.
So, but what this means to you as a consumer is that if you want to have your choice of games, you're going to have to have both of these pieces of software installed.
True. But if you want to buy anything if you want to buy anything from EA, you have to have Origin installed, and if you want to buy anything from Ubi, you have to have whatever their thing is called, UA whatever. So it's far from the first example of it.
Right. So it's a proliferation of even more software that you need to play games, which, you know, is fine as long as they don't all start up when you boot your computer.
Right. Yeah. I definitely had to go in and make sure that my Epic did not launch with the PC.
Because we've had we do a lot of laptop tests where we test with different games, and I think we've ended up with multiple different stores on there, and then you boot up the computer and it's like, oh, it's got to load this, and this is popping up in your face, and that, and that,
and you might as well go get a sandwich because it's going to take so long to load.
Yes, and of course, none of these stores wishes to be humble and say like, no, I'm not going to by default cause myself to, load at boot time, because why wouldn't you want to have the Epic Game Store running at all times? Why wouldn't you want to have, the Steam store running at all times?
Right. Yeah.
So
at least Steam, when you install it, it asks as part of the install, do you want this to load on startup? Epic did not give you that choice. Steam did. At least the last time I installed it. Steam gave me the choice, but Epic did not.
It's just one of my peeves how many different things want to load at the start of when you boot your computer that you don't necessarily need. And then you forget about them, and then like every time you're trying your computer, like, oh, I gotta close this thing. I gotta close this thing.
And when you turn on the computer, it's not like you have. Usually, it's not like you have a long window. You're like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna go and turn that setting off right now. You're like, I've got 3 minutes to be on a conference call. I gotta close this thing and move on.
Right.
It's never like this leisurely experience.
Yeah, like I have something on my desktop now, not a game store, but like I installed I was just trying out a VPN client, a free VPN client a while back, and it just keeps popping up. And I understand why they would do that. Well, of course you want to use us all the time. Well, maybe not. So yeah, it's like, I guess ultimately this competition is good for the consumer, but let's be fair, the competition with not too many games crossing over, it's not like someone is going to install the Epic Games app because they like the UI better than they like Steam's.
Right.
They're going to do it because the game that they want to. Yeah. They're going to do it because the game they want to play is there. Right.
Is only there.
It's like asking, which is better, Netflix or Disney Plus, right? Like people are going to get one or the other or both because they want the content that they can't get in the other one,
Yep.
not because they love the UI more, or the features.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And at some point there will be a lot more crossover than there is today. But, as part of their launch, Epic definitely wanted to have exclusive content. And again, for indies, we've done a couple of game reviews recently that have been Epic exclusives simply because of that 18% difference in commission. I don't I don't blame them at all. A 12% commission instead of a 30 is is huge if you're a little developer charging like $10 for your game. $1.20 instead of 3 on every sale is a huge difference. So, there'll be some that will never cross over, but I would imagine this time next year when the launch exclusives have expired, we'll be having a different conversation. But I think it'll still be good for Valve, not bad for Valve. So this week's news from the tubes on F5 Live is proudly powered by Riff Tracks. Make fun of movies or let these guys do it for you. Mike Nelson, Bill Corbett, and Kevin Murphy, the former stars of Mystery Science Theater 3000, are back and doing what they do best, creating commentaries for Hollywood blockbusters and B-movie oddities like Robo Vampire. I am not kidding. It is a vampire movie that looks like it stars a very low-budget RoboCop. The way it works is for a couple of dollars, you download the MP3, you play it along with your DVD, Netflix, Amazon, wherever you might find that movie, and laugh. They also do live events, many of which make it onto the site later on as purchasable content. And they also have short films, industry insider films like The Importance of Springs, or those terrible films that we watched in like elementary school, and they finally make them watchable. And you can find all the short films, all the live events, and all the feature films by going to f5live.tv/rifftracks with an X. All right, so obviously there are, in the U.S. right now, there are a lot of contenders for the nomination for president, and all of them are trying to separate themselves. Some of them do them with some interesting pitches. This week, Bernie Sanders made a pitch suggesting that the government take a stronger hand in the internet, not net neutrality, which he said was a separate issue that he would also address, but that the federal government should make it so that the local municipalities could have their own government-run internet connections. Essentially, creating a government monopoly to replace the evil monopoly that he sees as several companies. Now, here's the thing. Yes, there are a lot of places where there are either no choices or only one choice. Our office is one of those. We have several internet choices in our area, but our office only has one. AMROC, our advanced manufacturing robotics center that we've built over in Tampa, is the same way. We only have one choice for internet service there. And obviously, that means that if people aren't watching, they can get price gouged. But the federal government has a plan, has a thing, we literally talked about it in the last show. It's the Universal Service Fund that offsets the cost of developing, bringing service to places that are underserved or not served, or places that couldn't ever make money. I don't know. The idea of the government getting involved directly in internet access sounds like Bernie's going, "Hey, you remember that NSA stuff that rocked the country and made Edward Snowden an international fugitive? I think that was a good start, but what if we cut out the middleman?" That's what I hear.
I'm okay. I'm reading the plan on while looking this
Mm-hmm.
over, I loaded up the actual plan page
Mm-hmm.
on berniesanders.com, and I'm not seeing, maybe I'm reading this wrong, but I'm not seeing a proposal for the government to take ownership of the ISPs. It, it sounds like, and this isn't really spelled out, while there's a lot of text here, I don't think that they've really spelled out uh, exactly how they would do this, but that they would treat the your local ISP as a public utility, which which is like which is like how the electric and water are treated, and those are not run by the government. They are run by companies, sometimes very flawed companies, I must say, in the case of what it is like here where I live. But they are just subject to a certain amount of heightened scrutiny because only one, you know, they have to. Now, I
Yeah.
don't know that you could say that with internet they have to have a monopoly. With electricity, they kind of have to have a monopoly because how many companies can run electric power lines
Right.
through the
Right.
ground or through the poles, and how many can run water through the pipes?
Right.
It's
Although there
not
are
in, I think, in anybody's interest.
although there are places where the lines are not necessarily owned by the power companies, but that's and there's multiple power companies. It's a weird situation, but yes, in most places they are solo. And when it comes to water, of course, that is definitely solo. The part of his
Right now,
proposal
obviously.
that I was concerned about was his first key point, which is provide $150 billion in infrastructure grants and technical assistance for municipalities and or states to build publicly owned and controlled cooperative open access broadband networks.
Right. So this is talking about municipal broadband, which some some companies, some I believe there are a few municipalities that do have it
There are.
now. These are not run by the federal government.
Right.
They're run by state, or even not even state, like local government. Um, so I don't. So
But
while
but
I
those are
understand that
but those are
the
also paid for by the local or state government as opposed to this, which would be paid for by the federal government. And anytime the federal government gives out money, there's always strings.
but you could say that, yes. I mean, I think the federal government can also spy. The federal government has had no problem spying on people
As it is. Yeah,
through privately owned ISPs. So I don't
absolutely.
know that, you know, if
Which,
you're a
which by the
local
way,
town.
which by the way is why
eh,
something like pure VPN is important, guys.
yes, right. I just don't. I don't see, like, I'm looking at this and I don't see where this would provide infinitely more spying opportunities for the government than the government already has now. If you're concerned about like a municipal broadband, for example, uh, if it existed, would be would presumably would be answerable to your local city council or whatever, and now
True.
you might worry about what they're going to do with the data,
True.
but um, but but them but on the other hand, at least theoretically, those are people who are responsible to the public, as opposed to, say, people who are in charge of privacy at an ISP, at a private ISP, where their number one concern is shareholder value.
Sure.
So they've got a lot of motives not to respect your privacy. So
That's true.
I'm not saying that one that is a municipal broadband um, will be a panacea for anything, but I don't know if it's I don't know if it's really going to, if it can be any appreciably worse for your privacy than what we have going on right now with private vendors. Also, to note, and I thought this was interesting, I think we've talked before about how there are states where where cities that wanted to set up municipal broadband were actually prevented by law
Yeah.
from doing it because the large providers had lobbied the state government to basically say to enforce their monopoly
Very true.
with the public. And so one of the proposals is to allow municipalities to do this. So I think, I think the question is, you know, is this, I don't, first of all, $150 billion, uh, $150 billion is not, well, I guess it's a fair amount of money, but when it comes to creating broadband throughout, my guess, my guess is that that my guess is that that piece of it wouldn't go very far, because
Uh-huh.
individual towns would have to say that they were going to, yes, you could have grants, but they would also have to spend their own money
Yeah.
to some extent to
Yeah.
provide broadband. Um, Now,
Because
I think
because
the
it's not an
principle,
inexpensive process, which has been the whole thing, right? That's
right?
why some places have, even somebody like Comcast or AT&T or Verizon has to take advantage of some of these grants because they it's just not financially feasible to service some people because
Yeah,
the
I
cost
mean,
will never pay itself back.
what I would like to see, I mean, I think, I would like to see something done to spur more competition. I think
Mm-hmm.
people would like to see that, and then I think folks
Agreed.
uh, would like to see some minimal level of assurance that that your internet access was treated with the level of seriousness that it deserves.
Sure.
Um, by that I mean, you know, that while it's not as life and death as electricity, it is a critical service in the year 2019,
Sure.
to have it. Like, there are a lot of things in life you cannot do without internet now. You realistically cannot search for and apply for a job. Real
Yeah.
Can't do a lot of types of things like banking. Um, you need you need internet.
Yeah.
So the concept that internet has to internet has to be available to people. It has to be, um, it has to be accessible
Yeah.
so people can afford it, and
Agreed.
it has to not be censored so that the ISPs can decide like what you read and see,
Yep.
um, which I know is not totally addressed in this because that's really net neutrality.
Right.
But I think, I think the principle that you have to treat this as like a fundamental thing that people need to have access to is it is the principle that they're going for.
Mm-hmm. And I
I
agree.
agree that it seems a little bit weird that you would have like your local town council running an ISP. Like, I don't,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if I lived somewhere where there was absolutely no alternative, uh, then I would want my town council to, my, local government to provide it. Um, but, I
Yeah. I
think more likely it's incentivizing these companies to do this and making sure that they can't totally gouge you
yeah.
on the prices because you don't normally have much of a choice.
Right. And I'm 100% on all of that for sure. Um, I think I think it's a that internet today is an absolute cultural necessity. There's, like you said, there's so much stuff that you just can't do without it. I think it's absolutely a necessity, and I think everybody should be lobbying to to add those assurances on there, and encouraging towns and counties to get involved in it. However, I think might be uh, a silly pitch. But like you said, it's probably it probably doesn't survive, uh, a congressional pitch anyway.
I don't
So
see. Yeah, I don't foresee. I also just don't foresee a lot of. I don't know. Maybe in some rural areas, I just don't
yeah,
foresee a lot of. Maybe it's just where I live and who I know. Foresee a lot of people wanting their local government to provide them
agreed,
with that.
agreed. Yeah. So obviously, like you said, the chances that, well, with any political pitch like this, the chances that the fringe aspects of it stick around through committees in Congress are low anyway. But this is definitely one of them. But I'm with you. I think the assurances on being able to have and afford an internet connection is essential today. So this week's DRM Not Included in F5 Live is proudly powered by Amazon Prime. In addition to your free shipping, you also get some cool features that not everybody knows about, like Amazon Prime Music, which offers several million tracks available for free as part of your subscription. Amazon Prime Video, which offers TV, movies, documentaries, both original and licensed content available as part of your subscription. My favorite is Twitch Prime, which gives you both one free subscription where you can support the creator of your choice, whether it be PLUGHITZ Live or somebody else with your subscription, or you also get free games every month, which is wonderful if you're a PC gamer or you're looking for add-ons for games. You get those a lot of those for free as well, and you definitely want to check those out if you're already a Prime member. If you're not, we have a free 30-day trial and quick links to some of these features that are part of your subscription and more, all of which you can find by going to f5live.tv/prime. Speaking of streaming video, we have talked about the build-up of a whole bunch of new services, and this week was definitely one for contract talk. We saw a lot of information come out about the future of older shows like The Office or Friends that aren't on the air anymore, and where you'll be able to watch those. Even current shows like Rick and Morty are now going to be available in multiple places. But one of the services that has been a little nebulous for us has been Quibi, the service run by former HP and eBay CEO Meg Whitman. The company, their pitch was quick bites, which is what Quibi is short for, and it's designed to be short form content. Our fear was that meant Vine or TikTok, but for professionals. But they have assured that it would be longer than that, but shorter than a regular show. And to prove what their content is intended to be, they announced a partnership this week with a series that I'm excited about. It's an older Comedy Central sketch comedy show called Reno 911. I loved Reno 911. If you've not seen this show, but you've seen Cops, it's essentially Cops, but comedy as a sketch show. It's a really funny series, and it makes me a little more comfortable about the platform, right? Because they announced that they were going to be exclusive with T-Mobile, which was a weird move. They hadn't really talked about exactly what their content was going to be, which was a weird move. But at least now we understand, sketch comedy totally fits into the idea of quick bites. So maybe we're starting to get a better picture of what they're going for here. What do you think?
Yeah, I guess so. I think this is a very crowded field, and they're going to have a really hard time breaking in. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I guess this is, I mean, good for them, but there's a lot of competition in this space, and
Yeah.
so I'm I'm really not sure how they're going um to whether this is going to be much of a success. But I mean, yes, Reno 911 is something that that's a good get for them, but they're going
Sure.
to need a lot more than that.
Oh, absolutely. Um, and hopefully we'll hear more. Meg Whitman will be doing a keynote during CES in just a couple of weeks, which is a horrifying sentence to say out loud. Uh, she'll be doing a keynote. Hopefully, we'll get enough information to wrap our heads around what their intentions are here. But I don't know. I keep going back to Turner has who is kind of the has kind of been the king of broadcast short form, right? Because Cartoon Network, even if a show is 30 minutes, a lot of the shows do like two segments. You've got Adult Swim, which is known for 11-minute episodes. They've kind of been the broadcast kings of shorter form content, and even they couldn't make a video streaming service of short form content work. Uh, Thrice, they have had three of them, and they've shut them all down. And I mean, with you're talking about the resources of Turner, which is now, God, Turner is AT&T now, right? So even with all of those resources, they still couldn't make it work. This startup is convinced that they're going to be able to do something that the kings of short form content couldn't accomplish. I don't know. I mean, even college humor, you know, everybody
Right. I
seems
mean,
to have succumbed in short form.
isn't there all isn't there already a place for that, and that's called YouTube? You know, I mean, yes, YouTube is just the platform, and you have to find who's using it for that. But
Sure.
eh, I also think the thing about short form content is, I don't know, I could be wrong here, but it just seems like it's not something that breeds great loyalty. So, right, like, oh, I saw something cute on YouTube. Thanks,
Sure.
I'll go see something else.
Yeah.
Somebody sent me something. I don't see a lot of people are like, oh man, I can't wait I can't wait and I'll pay to see what College Humor is doing next.
Right.
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 I mean, every now and again there'll be a channel or something that I'll come back to because I know they always have cute, funny stuff.
Sure.
For example, Screen Rant is one that I look at where they have with the honest trailers,
Uh huh.
and they'll
Yeah.
so okay, like I guess you could call that a form of short form humor, but I don't see there being like a lot of people who have such a great deal of loyalty to that they're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna keep coming back again and again.
Yep.
It's not like, okay, someone really wants to keep watching some of the Netflix shows, so they're gonna keep subscribing to Netflix. They really want to see The Mandalorian, so they subscribe to Disney Plus. I don't foresee there being something like that for short form video. Oh, I can't wait to see the next cute little joke, so I'm gonna give them my credit card to bill me every month.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm totally with you on that. Even if you go back to to Turner, oh well, if you look at College Humor, even their website doesn't exist today. Uh, their website just takes you to their YouTube channel, which is a huge change. Um, but if you go back to Turner, the reason why even their short form stuff is a success is because they package it in standard 30-minute blocks, right? You go, if you're going to watch an episode of Teen Titans, it's a 30-minute block. Yes, it might contain 2 stories, so it's kind of short form, but they're still packaging it in standard format. So because you always feel weird like going in to invest time in a short form, you know. The idea of sitting down and turning on the TV just for an 11-minute episode is weird. And, you know, specifically going to a website on Tuesday to be able to watch the next episode of, you know, the 3-minute Tim and Eric weird thing that they're doing, whatever it is at any given moment, you know, it's just not that compelling is what I think it comes down to. And I'm with you. I think this is going to be an uphill battle. That, I mean, Meg Whitman has a history of successes behind her. Yes. This, I don't feel, is going to be her next one, though. I just can't see this taking off.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm underestimating the amount of loyalty people have. I mean, think about it. The concept is you have a short attention span, but we want you to pay attention enough to give us your money.
Yeah.
You know. Now, I don't know, because now you see. Have you seen this new trend where Netflix has it, and I think does Amazon have it yet, where you can play your videos at like 1.5 or 2x, so you can you can watch if you're watching a show and you just don't have patience to sit through it, you can make it go faster, and everybody talks a little bit higher octave.
I think YouTube offers a 1.25.
Yeah. Now I could see that for something that is like it's a tutorial or something, and I just wanted to like sort of fast forward to the part that I need. Sure.
Our how-to on the LEDs. Sure. Totally got it. But the idea of watching content that way, like scripted content, is weird to me. I'm with you. It's weird.
It kind of makes your horror movie a little less scary.
Because there's timing
I was waiting
involved.
for him to jump out. Oh, yeah.
There's so much time that goes into timing for comedy, for horror, for all of that. You know, screwing it up like that. Anyway, I don't know. I'll have a better feeling about this, whether it be a good feeling or a bad. I'll have a stronger feeling about this after the keynote at CES. So, I guess we've only got a couple more weeks to wait to see how we feel. And that is our show. Thank you to those of you who joined us live, especially for those of you who joined us for the first time. Haley and Live Real Media and a whole bunch of others who have scrolled off the screen at this point. Thank you for joining us live. If you didn't and would like to in the future, you can always go to f5live.tv/join us on Friday nights. What? Oh my goodness, we've only been doing this for 15 years, Avram. I have no idea what night it is. Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, f5live.tv/join us. If you can't join us live, that's okay. PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe. You'll see all of our shows and all the different ways that you can subscribe. And I guess with that, on behalf of the staff that's not here, I'm Scott.
I'm Abram.
And we will see you guys back next time. Ciao.